Today we welcome Dr. Sabrina Atkins. In 2020, Dr. Atkins was chosen by the National Basketball Association to serve as the official chiropractic physician for the NBA bubble, where she served as the sole chiropractic physician for the 22 NBA teams remaining in the 2020 season through the NBA Finals. Her involvement in the world of professional sports is worldwide, with associations with several other sports venues and events, including Do Action Sports Tour, USA Taekwondo, USA Judo, Disney Marathon, International Softball Federation, Pro Sports, Professional Rodeo Association, and the Baja 1000 racing teams. We are so happy to have a professional with these credentials on our show, so sit back and let's have some fun with Dr. Sabrina Atkins.
Hey all, how you doing, buddy?
Hey.
Spencer, you look fantastic
Oh,
as
thank
always.
you very much. Must be that new
It
moisturizer
must
I'm
be
using.
Yeah, it's called humidity.
Oh.
Sabrina, welcome to the show.
Right.
You're kidding, right? We're gonna have to have a podcast about that, where all his friends come on. We just ask him about what it's like to have a flatlander go to the mountain range where it was cold and deal with horses and mountains and lakes and all that kind of stuff. I can't wait to hear that show.
Actually, earlier Sabrina goes, "Well, I see you turned from a workaholic into a world traveler." So I mean, she really knows that's
good. It's good.
Yeah, Sabrina, you and I have traveled quite a bit. This guy's idea of travel is anything that's beyond the 45-minute car ride. Yeah, one time he goes, "Where are you going?" I go, "I'm going to Mammoth." "Well, how far is that?" I go, 5 hours. "Oh, I need a hotel."
On to Sabrina.
So, yes.
Hey, listen, I'm going to start by telling you that you know that I am one of your biggest fans, and I have always followed what you're doing and feel that it is so important for the doctor of chiropractic that's a female that's involved at the level and depth of sports medicine that you are. And you're just you teach adjusting, you lecture on it, and I get you involved in as much stuff as possible.
I love it.
But I have one question that I want you to share with everybody. You've told me before, but what is it how did you get involved at such a high level of sports in the National Basketball Association? How did it all start?
I have no idea.
You're being modest.
It's probably the most honest
She's
answer.
being
right there.
modest.
Everything's. I had no idea what you guys were going to ask me this morning, so I'm like, I don't know. I'm gonna. But when you go back and you think about it, and you, Spencer, how long have you been practicing?
Ooh, almost 40 years.
Yeah. And what about you, Terry?
34.
I'm still a greenhorn compared to you guys. Like, I still feel like I'm just this little fledgling who's learning and growing. Because for me, it's only been 20. And, sometimes you look back and you're like, wow, it's already been 20 years and it feels like a blink of an eye. And the best answer I can give you is just like, you have goals, but you don't have a plan. And so you just keep going and going and going. You just it's just one step after the other. And after about, let's see, it was like 2009, I want to say, that I started getting involved with the Orlando Magic. And at that point, you've already been you're in private practice, you've done a bunch of volunteer work, you've worked with a lot of organizations. And I think I was just feeling my oats that day, and I emailed them. Because I think I did a little bit of research, and I was like, they don't have a chiropractor. I'm just going to email them. I'm like, hey, you need a chiropractor, and I think it should be me. And he asked me to come in and talk to them, and the rest is history.
Yeah, but
That's crazy.
Even before that, what made you think? Okay, call it like it is. You got a lot of peers out there that admire you, but what made you, as a female, think that you could be involved in a man's sport? Now I know I'm going to get hammered for that, but that's what most no, that's what most women have the trepidation about. Right. Picking up the phone. Oh no, they won't want me. But I want you to share that moment of thought where you go, you know what, I'm just going to try.
Some of it may be just naivety. I grew up with boys, and I kind of felt like I was a boy my whole life, and you just get so used to hanging out with boys that is where my comfort zone is, believe it or not. It's not something that I'm intimidated by or I am afraid of. That's my happy place.
That's great.
I love being around guys. And
That's great.
I love being around athletes, and I love being around male athletes. That's mostly what I worked with all throughout.
Now,
my
you
career.
obviously didn't just jump into that level of sport. You have been, I mean, like you, I don't know if you remember, you used to call me and ask me questions when you know, early on in practice and ask me questions about certain things about sports medicine and sports healthcare and all that. But you have a history of working with sports way before that too. I mean, organized sports.
Right. Sorry, my
Sure.
dog's barking in the background.
That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, well, I was an athlete myself, so just having that experience. But then my very first experience was when I was still in Life University. And so I was in the sports health science building, working on my master's in sports injury management. And I got to work with all the athletes there. And I remember working with the soccer players a lot, a couple of the rugby players, the track and field players. But then I got the opportunity to actually, because I wound up getting my chiropractic degree while I was still working in the sports health science facility. And I got to travel with the women's basketball team there as their traveling chiropractor for the Life University female basketball team. And then
You know, Sabrina, I got to interject something for the audience that's just listening. You know, we know how powerful you are, but first off, how tall are you?
5'1".
5'1". So here's a woman who's 5'1". The average height of an NBA player is probably 6'5". Now, I worked on him once when I was in Orlando with the ski tour because he lived next door to one of my athletes. But I worked on Shaq once. Now, so here's a very small man, and I had to take my table and add on an ottoman just to get him to fit. Now, I'm 6 foot, and he was. It was an interesting person to work with. You're 5'1", a female. And we're gonna go back, and I gotta get that inner voice to come out of you. That's not this little 5'1" mouse. I gotta get this lion to come out because you were the only female in the bubble.
Yeah, I was the only
and
chiropractor
working
in
with
the
an average of
bubble.
6. Yeah, not only female, the only chiropractor working on 6'9" giants at 5'1". So what Spencer asked is, not only are you a female, so these women are intimidated by that. You're 5'1". Dinky little female who's freaking a lion. I want to hear that person talk about how she handles these monsters.
Flex for us. Flex for the
There's
YouTube guys.
I have a funny story about that. I don't typically talk about anyone that I treat, but I also saw Shaq a few times. And I have these incredible tables that I bought specifically because in my head, it's kind of like that. If you build it, they will come. So I bought 7-foot tables. My doorways were 10 foot high. I was like, I'm gonna build it, and they're gonna come. But yeah, I had the opportunity to work on him, and it was a lot of fun. But I think I'm just the Chihuahua who thinks she's a Great Dane. I don't. It's really it's a perception thing. I don't think of myself as small. I don't think of myself as a female trying to work in a man's world. I don't know. I don't know. It's just a lot. It's
you
just
do
a
know
lot of
because
fun.
your personality can be that Great Dane and Chihuahua, but you still have to back up it with skills, and you still have to fix them. So I want to know how you honed your skills to where a 7 foot, 300-pound man will trust a 5'1" woman. So where did that story come from?
There's got to be an air of confidence, that's for sure. You have to come in with a certain amount of competency and just the way you touch someone in general, to make them feel comfortable, and the way you talk to them and the way you look at them. I think that's a big part of it, and it doesn't matter how big or small you are. It's just making that connection with someone is a big part of it. And that's more of the trust than anything, and them knowing that you're not going to do you're not going to hurt them. I mean, that's most important to anybody. Like, you may not be the best, but first of all, don't hurt me, and only work within your capacity. But beyond that, you know, when you are working with these big athletes and you're doing the type of treatment that I do a lot of, everything I do is hands-on, full manipulation. And when you are doing that type of work, you do have to have a strong body. You've got to have a good sense of biomechanics, self-awareness. And for me, I think being able to have that mind where you can see three-dimensionally, and it helps you with any type of working with the mechanics of the other person. And that's what I teach in my classes. That's what I'm teaching these individuals, especially the ones that, you know, have been told they're too small and they shouldn't do this type of chiropractic because you're not big enough, you're not strong enough. When you understand levers and you understand the biomechanics of the human body, and you can use those levers to your advantage, it makes it all much easier for both of you. So having that ability to, and I call it a dance too, because you're so close to this individual, and if you don't trust each other, one person's going to tense up, and it just makes the whole thing harder. So you have to have the patience, you have to have the confidence, and you have to read them more than anything, really. You know, you got to know where they are, where their apprehension is, and kind of talk them down if you need to, if they feel scared. But you know, a lot of times, you know, what I experience is they, you know, I'll get that look, you know, they just like, you're the chiropractor, and they just kind of chuckle. I've had that happen so many times. They just kind of chuckle, like, what are you gonna do? And so they're not, you know, you don't have that fear that you get from some people, like, what can she do? But then when you do what you do, and you're able to move the things the way I move them, you have that moment where you're like, you got them, because I think this could be delicate ground, but I think for a lot of these athletes, especially where they're coming up from, who they are, they're used to people judging them by how they look and where they're from. And I think it gives me an interesting advantage, because when they have that moment where they just got rocked by this little midget, then they have that setback, like, I just judged her, right? And I've been judged my whole life, and I don't like to be judged. And so we have like this moment where we come together, and now we've got this connection. And I think it's one of the most beautiful things I experience on a regular basis when I'm working with large athletes.
People don't, you know, people that know you absolutely love you. You know, you have an air of approachability to you, and a mommy, you know, caring character. And I think that's what they, you know, it seems like these pro athletes really appreciate the doctor patient, you know, mom, you know, big son, you know, kind of thing. You know, they really, they take to that well. And,
yes,
you know, because of your esteem and your personality that just is so, you know, easygoing, free-spirited, intelligent, you know, I think one of the most monumental things that was an advancement for women in healthcare and in sports was in 2020. Set the stage. The pandemic was out of control. Sports was in a frenzy. The NBA wanted to press on, so they created the what? The bubble. The bubble, please explain what that bubble is for those who have no idea what it was. And then I'm going to ask you, what was it like?
Okay. So yeah, just like Spencer said, it's the whole world shut down, every industry shut down, and one of our things that keeps us all going. We didn't realize how much we rely on sports to keep us going until we lost it.
Yeah.
And the fact that the NBA said no to that and joined with Disney, another giant who, if you're going to join with anyone to make something happen, Disney's who you're going to join with, because they have the space, they have the know-how, they have but yeah, they just built this. It was like this. There were 4 resorts, I think, involved with it, plus the worldwide sports facilities as well. I forget.
Oh yeah,
I don't
Wide
even
World
know
of
how
Sports
big it
facility.
was.
Yeah.
But basically, you know, no one came in, no one went out without, you know, all these layers. I would joke about it. I felt like I was on the White House lawn most of the time, because there was so much security, and there were so many layers to get in. And but yeah, I think there were 20 teams that were in the bubble. Forget however many were left. There was like a few weeks left.
22.
22. There was
Yeah.
like a few weeks left of the regular season, so there were a couple of teams that had to play out the regular season, and then just the ones that made the playoffs. But yeah, they called me up, and the Players Association called me and just said, "Hey, we're doing this thing. How would you like to join?" And
Do you remember some of the questions you called me you called me about how, what a commitment it was, and should I do it? What were some of those challenges that you had?
well, you know, I'm a mom, so just the whole idea of leaving my daughter for 3 months was a huge decision to make, and then being a business owner, leaving my business, and then being a doctor, and you're leaving your patients, and you have to deal with all of that guilt that comes with it, and making sure that these people that you care about are well taken care of. So there was a lot of that went into the decision. Walking away from my job, like how much are they going to pay me was a real question. But other than that, I was excited about it. I was excited about this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that just gave me the opportunity to go be in the place that I love to be.
So picture that moment. You say yes,
Mm-hmm.
you sign a contract, you're all in. What was that single moment when you walk in that you felt, holy crap? Either you felt intimidated or thrilled, or what were those emotions that you started to experience?
Oh, I cried a lot.
It's not what I expected, but okay.
Oh my gosh. Well, it was so exciting, you know, and it was super fancy because, you know, they come and pick me up in the black van, and they, you know, it's all just, you know, the guy in the black suit, you know, he pulls up to my driveway, picks me up, and I have him drive by my office so I can wave to everybody.
Yeah, right.
I say goodbye to my daughter, and then you know, they drive, and it's just the whole thing's surreal. Like,
Yeah.
you just so many aspects of the experience were surreal because of the way they treated you, the way they treated me, and so I get there, and first you have to stay in the hotel that's in the outside bubble, so that you can COVID test and stay for 24 hours and get everything cleared. And it was just, it felt like you were walking into this whole other world of bigness, because everything was so meticulous, and there was so much security. And then I got into my hotel room, and I cried for like 2 hours. Like, oh my God, what I'm the worst mother in the world. And you go through that, and you're sitting there and you're looking out your hotel window, and it's this gorgeous hotel, and it's a gorgeous view, and you're like, this is everything I've dreamed of. This is the biggest opportunity I've ever been given, and I'm torn apart. And the first 2 weeks, I got into the bubble, and we had to quarantine for, I think it was 7 days. So I just stayed in my hotel room for 7 days, and we could leave once a day to go get tested. Or I think it was once a day to go get tested. And so you're just in this white collar prison where they drop your food off at your door, and you open your door and you get your food, and you just stay in your hotel room. And I packed like I was going camping. I mean, I that was knowing how to go camping and survive with nothing was a big benefit, because I bought my griddle, and I brought food, and I brought my books, and I brought my hammock. And I just moved in. I brought my bike. So when I finally did get out of quarantine, I took my yoga mat. So I would just do yoga daily and just focus on really a lot of self-growth. What else are you going to do for 7 days by yourself? So I focused on a lot of self-growth and reading and yoga. And then when I was out of quarantine, when I was free, rode my bike and went running and did yoga. But the first 2 weeks were pretty hard just because of the settling in. But the way they treated me was amazing. It was just so professional and so nice, and all of the teams were just so grateful and nice. Everyone was amazing to work with. I'm gonna go get her.
No, she's fine. We're dog. I do have a question, because you brought up something, the guilt of being a mom and all that kind of stuff, and I think we tell a lot of our patients that are moms, they come in broken because they put everybody in front of themselves. They put their kids first, they put their job first, they put this first, and there's little left for themselves. And you're doing something for yourself. How is that battle as a mom and a businesswoman to for once put yourself first, knowing this is a dream of yours,
right? And
this was one of a lifetime opportunity as a businesswoman and representing our profession.
Mm-hmm.
How is that? How did you handle that battle in that week of self-growth?
Doing yoga. I FaceTimed my daughter every day, probably multiple times a day. So I was in constant contact with them. I was constant contact with my office. And I think when you're in the moment with it too, and I'm sure you guys can attest to this, when you're in the moment and you're having this surreal experience, you almost can't digest it. You're just in it. And you just keep going. And the other cool thing is they also had, they knew that people were going to have a hard time with it, so they brought in a psychologist who was on site as well. So he was there for anyone that was having a hard time.
Wow.
Because they knew, this was a big commitment from everyone, and for some people it was an even bigger commitment. I was there for 3 months, but some people were there for 4-5 months, just because they were the ones that were the core, getting it all together, building it, and staying to the very end. Wow. So just a big commitment from everyone.
Totally.
You don't realize how big it is. That when I step back, when you look at it from the outside, you're like, that's a big deal. Like, that's a really big deal that you're chosen as the chiropractor for the NBA bubble. It kind of still doesn't really. I don't feel like that guy. Like, you don't feel like a big shot. You don't feel like anything. You just still feel like you're doing the thing that you love to do, and it just happens to be on this platform.
I think this is a moment to create a real impact for our listening and viewing audience, that your child, your practice, the NBA, your dream, beyond your dream is really a metaphor. Because remember, we talked about, hey, moms do it all the time when they have to serve in the military. They have to go off, and their pride and their dream is to defend America, so they go out there and they leave for not just 3 months, for 6 months, and so I think those are the kind of thing, and there are other reasons that people have other than just serving the country, but you served your future and the profession. I think that is it is a remarkably hard decision to make, but you went with your passion and paved the way by investing in you. So now you look back at such glorious times.
Yeah.
So I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. I want to ask you who your favorite player was and why. And listen, man, I'm HIPAA non-compliant 1,000 times. So just you can throw it out there. If we need to edit it out or bleep it out, we'll do so.
Just say the big 6'7" man.
They're all big 6.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh gosh. Getting to see people also in an element that was a struggle for them. You get to know people on a different level. And we're all in this together. We're all struggling together. We're all in this situation that's challenging all of us. And I'm going to these treatment rooms and these where everything's set up. It's just hotels, right? So everything's just makeshift. So it's not and that's the thing I would say too. People ask me all the time, "Who's your favorite? Do you watch the games? And who's your favorite?" I don't
come on.
watch a lot of sports. Because it's not the sport that interests me. It's the athletes.
Right.
It's
Okay.
the athletes.
Who is your favorite personality?
So I will say there was a couple of them, but PJ Tucker stands out significantly.
Why?
Because he's a baller. Like, he's just so authentic in everything he did. The way he played, the way he was in the treatment rooms, just my kind of guy. Yeah,
Intense.
Just so passionate too.
Yeah.
And he's old school. And that's what I really liked about them. I enjoyed a couple of the players from LA just for the same reason, because they're old school. I think too. I mean, maybe there's just like a common energy that resonates in people that have maybe struggled. People have had to work really hard to come up and make their way, and I think it's one of those things where you recognize that in another person, right? So there's similar. I see myself in them. Right?
Very good.
The ones that.
Hey Sabrina, do you find that sometimes you just mentioned some? Do you find sometimes that vulnerability is a form of strength?
Sure.
That when we let down our guard down a little bit, people are so afraid to hide their vulnerability that they come across fake and they're not approachable. But if you're a little vulnerable, sometimes that is a sign of strength. And do you find that? Do you find that connection help you?
Absolutely. And I think for a lot of these men, so often that you get told that you can't be aggressive, or you've got to be this way, or you've got to be that way. And some of us, that's just who we are. And when you're going to be an athlete and you're going to play in a competitive sport like that, there's a certain amount of aggressive personality that you have to have. That I just appreciate that. I appreciate authenticity 100%. And he was probably just one of my favorite people to work with.
So, just to really elucidate on what you just said, because I think it's really important. Coaches and entrepreneurs look for people they select people who they know had a history of struggle and, working hard to make it, because that's the fabric of their being. Right. What would be the opposite of that you didn't like in an athlete that you saw was maybe not as admirable? What are those qualities or features that you picked up on that didn't make them your favorite player?
Yeah. just like you were mentioning, it's just the any arrogance is really off-putting. Anyone who has any sense of what's the word I'm trying to think of?
Entitlement. Yeah.
Yeah. Just it's very off-putting, and it restricts connection.
Yeah.
It really does. So yeah, that would be the opposite.
Very good.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now you have got to have a funny story that occurred, or a entertaining one at least. Come on, Sabrina.
I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of funny moments. Some of them, I had the most fun with LA. That team used me more than any other team.
No kidding.
They called me. I was regularly seeing them on a schedule more than any other team. And they would all get adjusted. So you love that as a chiropractor. Like, they all appreciate it, and they all want it, and they all love it. And the trainers are on board, and they're supporting it, and it just felt wonderful. You felt like you were truly part of a team, right? And everyone knew their lane, right? The ATC, the massage therapist, the PTs, me. And even though I was an outsider, I felt like I was part of the family just by the way they treated me. But it was fun because you're right there in the middle of everything. There's a table in the middle of the room. You've got all these things going on, and at one point, you're crawling all over the table and you're up on top of these people. And it's funny. It's funny. And like, you just kind of like look up and you look around and they're just watching. You just have this audience of people watching you. But another funny time, I think we were one of the practice courts, and I was working on one of the players, and what I'm terrible at names. What's his name? LeBron was in there, right? So he's on this table. I'm working on this guy on this table, and I'm just, doing my thing. And LeBron was an interesting character because, again, you get that high up, so many people want things from you, and you just get so used to just nonsense. So there was the same thing, like you could just see that interaction between the two of us, like, all right, I'm just, you got to earn my trust, right? And you just got to slowly earn. And I remember I was working on another player, and from across the room, LeBron goes, "Sabrina!" I'm like, he knows my name.
Wow.
It was just one of those moments that were so fun because I'm like, yes.
Yay. I love it.
With LeBron, yes.
That's
I pierced the veil.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it was so much fun. Gosh.
Did you have? Come on, I mean, you're in a men's locker or a men's training room. That you're doing a side posture. Did anybody ever fart at the same?
No.
When you
No, that only happens in regular practice.
regular.
That just happens in the office.
Oh, that's awesome.
Were they less? So you've done a lot of other stuff, the Dew tours and Bajas and all that. You guys some crazy people. Were they less practical joking because they were in the bubble, or were they more because they were locked down and confined?
Going crazy.
I would say, I don't know if they were more or less, but I think just than they would normally be with in their normal lives. But because we were literally living together, that was our normal lives, and so you do get to see more of an individual, and that's what I mean. Like, you get to know them on a deeper level because you're living together. You're seeing each other day.
Did you see them drop their guard a lot more because there wasn't the paparazzi, there wasn't the press, there wasn't all that?
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's just the same thing day in and day out, and you're all sharing these little spaces together, right? And it's not like They're not getting to go home. They're not getting to go out to dinners. They're not getting to go out to clubs. They're not getting to do anything but stay in this confined area and really, really focus.
It had to be good for them.
Great.
It had to be good for them because a lot of time they have to put on this wall and this armor to protect them, and so they get these reputations of being arrogant or off-shooting. In reality, they're just insecure big men and or little boys in big men body, and it's probably good for them to be able to just let their hair down, so to speak, and just be themselves.
Just relax and joke around with each other, and
which is something you'll probably never see again because you won't have that environment.
I'm not going to be in the environment because that's the other thing, you know, and that's the thing that it can be frustrating as a female in this line of work because you don't get to go out with the guys. You don't get the same level of opportunity to form friendships like the guys do, because the guys can go out and hang out together, but that's you can't do that as a female. So you just you have to maintain that line. That can be frustrating because you're like, yeah, but I'm just one of the guys, you know. I mean, I'm not going to be harmful, but you know, when you have a moment, there was a moment that happened. We're in the cafeteria where everyone had to come for food, and I see one of the players that I've been working on, and at that point they had started letting some of the family come in. That's how far into when they got down to, I think, the final four, I think it was, they started letting family come in. And I just saw him, and I said, hi. And the girlfriend, it was, I thought she was going to kill him and it was not a fun feeling to feel that. But again, at the same time, you get it because you get it.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, that can be frustrating. But yeah, I'll never have that situation again unless something like this happens, or unless I'm traveling with someone, you know, living in that close proximity again, because you just you have such a separation from work and personal.
All right, Dr. Atkins, we are ready for the rapid fire questions.
Right.
Now, if you thought you were worried about what we were going to ask you, don't worry. You have the answers. 5 questions that I'm going to throw at you. Give me the most concise answer you possibly can, and we're going to move on to the next one. Are you ready?
And just wait. Just understand, this is worse than National Boards Part 2. So,
is it like one word answers?
Yeah,
is it one of those like the ink
you
blot
can do
tests
whatever.
where like I
Be
just say
drink
the
your-
first thing that comes to my head?
You could.
yeah, pretty much. Drink your matcha tea. Get ready to go.
You could, but we end up getting hung up on the answer because they're usually pretty interesting.
We?
All right, me. I get hung up on the answer. Oh my gosh. All right. What is the spinothalamic? No, I'm kidding. I was gonna.
It's the posterolateral tract.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Okay, number 1, hardest personal fitness challenge you have completed, and the next one that you have on your bucket list. Now, you can hit a front double bicep for those on you that are watching from YouTube to see how strong you are. But go ahead, tell me, what's your hardest personal
Ran a
fitness
full
challenge?
marathon. That was the
Damn
hardest.
it! Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Where was that?
I did it was in Washington, D.C. It was in D.C.
So you traveled to go compete in a marathon?
I went up
Jesus.
to
Because there
to
isn't
DC,
one in Orlando, is there?
It was the
That's boring.
for
The Armed Forces one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great one.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Smith, you've probably never heard of it. But
The
yeah,
Marine
it's
Corps.
it's
The Marine
they
Corps
go down
marathon,
by
yeah.
Memorial Park.
So I ran it in
Yep,
honor of
it's
my
incredible.
I ran it in honor of my dad who had passed away. He was a Marine. So I went up and
That's
I did-
awesome.
I
No
did
wonder why you're a badass.
DC.
Okay.
And it rained the whole time.
Wait,
It
of
was
course it did.
fantastic.
But you have to answer part 2. What's on your bucket list that's an adventure, that's a sports challenge that you want to do?
I want to hike the entire Appalachian Trail.
Holy night.
Perfect.
Oh, and I want to climb like all the highest mountains.
Oh, now you're
I
talking
don't think
Terry's
I'll ever
language.
climb Mount Everest. It's changed. I don't
Yeah.
think I'll ever climb Mount Everest. But
Well, I have 4 of them done,
which ones?
so we'll have to
yeah,
talk.
let's about it.
It's not about Dr. Terry. Sabrina, don't try to skirt the next
Sorry.
question.
And after Appalachian Trail, come out and we'll do the Pacific Crest
Done.
Trail.
Yes. Yeah.
There you go. That involves mountain, Spencer, so that's something out of your league.
We got the Key
It's
Biscayne Bridge. That's pretty high for me.
You know, he brings it up all the time.
I know, it's my
like, I
highest
have to come out and
elevation.
see that bridge.
Good job.
All right, go ahead.
Number two. With all the events you cover, if you were only allowed to bring 5 things in your treatment bag, what would they be?
Well, the really good part about being a chiropractor is all you really need is your hands.
I love it. You know what? When we set that question up, I go, that if she answers that way, and that's the truth. I tell that to all my interns and new docs. You are absolutely right. Terry, was that
all you need
satisfactory
is
for an
your
answer?
hands. Yeah. Final
Okay.
answer.
Yeah, 5 fingers.
5 fingers on each hand.
Yeah.
Number 3, your best morning routine to fire up your brain and body.
Oh, yoga.
There it is.
Yeah.
Number 4, you have been a part of the Do Tour, Baja 1000, and USA Taekwondo. What is the craziest accident you ever experienced to take care of?
Oh, to take care of?
Or be a part of? Or
I mean, I've seen them, you know, when we were first responders doing the Taekwondo and the do action sports and all that kind of stuff. So you see a lot of broken bones and that type of thing. We saw like when I was doing the do action tour, I think, first of all, those are still my favorite athletes in the entire world. The skateboarders, BMXers, and motocrossers.
oh, Terry's all getting excited right now. Okay.
They're the, like, of all the athletes I've worked on my entire career, and we see the gamut from the largest physically to like big names, right? I geek out on these guys. Like, they're coming to Daytona in 2 weeks. So I love it, and that's why I love doing the Baja 1000, because they're just a whole nother level of athlete. They're a whole nother level of human beings. I forgot the question.
No, that's fine.
What's the question?
No.
What I was actually just...
What's the craziest thing you've...
Yeah, I think... So what I was going to say is do action sports. I was still like 23, 24 when I was doing that. So you're still really wet behind the ears, and you're seeing all this crazy stuff. You're like, these guys don't get hurt. They die. And it was really sobering to see how much of that happens, and how bad the injuries they get that they come back from, the spinal cord injuries, the brain injuries. But of course, I mean, none of these were things that I actually treated, but you see it, and it's real. It's really real. But probably the coolest one I've ever seen is just where the collarbone just kind of like broke and just came out.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
you just see all these cool like
right.
compound fractures with it coming out of the skin.
Before we go to question 5, all 3 of us have a connection with these, and I do want to give her a shout out, because this woman is bad freaking ass, and she's been so good to the chiropractic profession. But we have to give a shout out to Dr. Trish Bear.
Absolutely, she's who got me engaged.
Because Dr. Trish, she's helped all 3 of us. And that woman has done more for action sports than anybody. So, Trish, if you're listening, we all love you.
Thank you so much,
all right.
Trish. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Go number
Very
5.
good. And actually, you know what I just realized, Terry? We've had plenty of guests that were chiropractors that either specialized in professional sports or delved into the sports you like, and all that crazy Do Tour Baja stuff and whatever. And it's funny, this is the first chiropractor that we've had on our show that has done both. You have quite a spectrum of specialties, my dear.
I do.
It's very cool. Did you notice that, Terry? Because Terry's got his Red Bull Racing shirt on.
I see that. I see that.
It's cold out.
Yeah, but like, I'm talking about the logo. I don't understand all that
Red Bull's taking
craziness.
over the industry. It's amazing.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Okay. All right, question number 5. That could be the last question, and you may you may terminate this program after I ask you.
Relationship.
Yeah. What is the craziest thing you've ever done naked?
Crazy. I don't know if it would be called crazy, but yes, you're right. This could terminate.
Listen, girl, I know you've done Burning Man, so go for it.
Oh, well,
Whatever.
yeah. So about that. Yeah, swimming in the ocean naked and, playing in the desert naked.
Love it. All right, I'm gonna. I know you got embarrassed on that one. I'm gonna move you off because I really want to know the backup question. If you choked up on the naked one, we had a backup question for you. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
Well, my belief is I already have a superpower. Well, I used to have a superpower when I was nursing my daughter, so that's the most incredible experience any human being can ever have, is being able to nurse your child. That
Terry did that with his 2 boys. It's cute.
If I had a superpower, I would fly. I would fly.
Very cool.
100%.
I like the nursing your daughter thing. You're such a consummate mom, man. You're very good. Very cool. Terry, sorry. Go ahead. You were about to say something other than nursing your kids.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually elaborate on that because you do have a daughter and you're a single mom and a lot like Trish, and yet you do so much. How do you find the balance between being a mom, a businesswoman, a doctor? How do you find and also an athlete? How do you find that balance for all these single moms out there that are struggling? Where do you pull the strength from?
I don't know. I think I've gone through struggles probably like most people have, and you come and go, and I've lost my cool plenty of times, and I don't know. I don't know how you do it. I think for some of us, the only thing I can say is it's just part of your disposition. You either know how to struggle or you don't. You know how to persevere or you don't. And I could say that some of that has to do with growing up in a way where there was a lot of struggle, and you either make it, it either makes you or it breaks you. And for a lot of us, if we have a lot of trials and tribulations throughout our life, if you learn how to rise above them, and you just get stronger and stronger, and your capacity gets broader and broader. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's not. Maybe it has nothing to do with anything I've ever experienced. But you just try not to feel sorry for yourself. And one of my favorite lines, I don't even know actually, this is a really great one behind me. I really love this poem. I memorized this poem when I was in high school. But the quote I was going to tell you was from G.I. Jane, where he's talking about the bird will fall frozen to the ground and never feel sorry for itself. Like you got to trust the process, and you just got to keep going and know that there's going to be another opportunity. But Invictus was my favorite poem. I learned it in high school, memorized it, and it became my motto that really just kind of pushed me through a lot throughout all of it. Even just going through college and getting through all of that, and like.
Would you mind reciting
trusting
poem
that
right
you're
now?
on the right path. Say that again.
Would you mind reciting the poem?
Oh, the poem? You mean do it from memory?
You could try.
Yeah.
Out of the night that covers me, black is the pit from pole to pole. I think whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance. See, now I'm going to forget it because I'm under pressure. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade. and the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. It kind of hits you, right? It kind of hits you, and
Hell yeah.
it makes you feel like you don't have any excuses. Because at the end of the day, it's all up to you.
Love it.
That's kind of what I was going to ask you. We all have, some of us fail and some of us succeed, but we always have this, some of us need this mantra that when we ramp up and life thinks it's too much, and I've got this thing going on my plate, I've got this on my plate, I got this plate, and we just start grabbing our hair and shaking our head, and then sometimes the evil one comes out and we yell when we shouldn't be yelling.
Sure.
So, you know, trying to find that mantra that calms us down, that takes us from that 5 back to a 2, you know, is that your go-to when you're freaking out?
I don't know if I would call it my go-to when I'm freaking out. But, you know, it kind of sits in the corner, and I just kind of like glance at it from time to time. And it's more of one of those where it's just like that. It's a constant drip, right? So, you know, you just kind of glance at it and you see it and you get that little gentle reminder. So it's not necessarily like when I'm freaking out. When I'm freaking out, I just, you know, I freak out. You lose your mind, and then you just kind of take a deep breath and you realize, you know, you look outside, and you know, some of the one thing I will do is going into nature, and you know, it sounds like we have that common thread. You go out and you're like, the tree doesn't care, the mountain doesn't care, none of it cares, and it's all going to keep going. And you know, the things that I feel are overwhelming or stressing me out, really in the realm of life and the world and the universe, none of it matters. So just don't worry about it. Just take one breath at a time and one step at a time, and
so
keep going.
On that spiritual note,
I know. Spencer always brings this side out in me.
I love it. We're gonna wrap it up, but I want to ask you, in summary of all these cool things you talked about, you've lived quite a life, and I've always been impressed by it. So in closing, what is the one thing you want to leave our listeners with that you may want to inspire them? And you don't have to be talking to the chiropractors. You can talk to anybody at this point. What would be the single most important thing that you do?
Find your own drum. Find your own peace, find your own path, be authentic. Trust yourself, trust your process. Don't do.
How do you find your own drum?
You're supposed to.
How did you find your own drum?
Yeah, don't do things because someone else is doing it or someone told you to. And don't not do things because people tell you can't.
Very good. Very good. It is always a pleasure. Thanks, Sabrina. Really appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for everything you do to our profession. You know, you may be 5'1", but you're a giant. Yeah. So don't ever forget that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Crackin Backs podcast. We hope you enjoyed, and make sure you follow our Instagram at Crackin Backs Podcast. Catch new episodes every Monday. See you next time.